Hello, hello. Hope you can hear me. Okay. So, hi guys, how are you all doing today? And welcome back to another live session with me. So today, if you, by the title, you may have an idea or a clue. Just want to set myself up properly. You may have an idea or a clue of why I'm here today. And so, yeah, we're still on this Diddy business. Like this one, I am invested and I am vested. This should be the third live I have in this. Actually, I was thinking of doing a video, but I'm like, I want to be able to, I want to be able to express my sentiments. I want to be able to speak how I feel. I want to be able to, show, um, you know, my emotion. I just want you all to see. I don't know. I just feel like this is somewhere that one can actually vent. All right, so we're going to be covering a lot of things today. So first off, Rolling Stones. Let's start from Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones has released an expose on Sean Combs and his violence and his history of violence. Now, I'm going to go through because it's a long read, and I just want a situation whereby I'll be able to, from the notes I made, because there are quite a lot. Okay, and so because of the fact that it's a long read, I made a lot of notes. And from the title, we said why he kept taunting Cassie, despite she leaving his sorry ass. Now we all know the story. We now know why we are here at the moment. And so why did P.Diddy, why did he keep doing that? You see, an abuser, okay, what you have to understand is, one, Diddy did not for any moment in time think or contemplate or even assume or imagine that Cassie was going to leave him. And I'll tell you why. In the other one, in my first video about this, I said that, I actually did say that Diddy I said, how did Cassie leave alive? How did she get out of this alive? Knowing exactly, and this is me being very sincere, knowing exactly how much, okay, she has been through. Because again, you see that video we saw, okay, released by CNN. That video was just a tip. We haven't seen anything yet. That video was just an inkling. And so imagine Cassie being in this, in this kind of relationship, okay? That she was in this relationship going for 10 years. That was the relationship she was in. And so when I asked the question, how is she alive? Please understand what I'm saying. I was in mine for 3 years. The first year, okay, the first slap, I knew something was wrong, but my brain wasn't registering that something was wrong. Right? Now, remember I told you guys that, again, Cassie was just a young adult. This is double, all right? This is double the age, okay, of Diddy. Diddy was double her age. So Diddy was 37 going on 38 when he decided that he was going to be a predator on this unassuming young girl. Remember what I said in the first video? I said, when I talked to parents, and I said, your child went for a job interview and she got the job, right? And then after getting the job, she moves from getting the job, okay, to living in the house and dating her employer in a short space of time. If you guys do not understand the fact that P.Diddy is a predator, okay, and the fact that he preyed on this girl, he preyed on her vulnerability, he preyed on her ignorance, he preyed on her naivety, he preyed on her innocence. Because and why I say this is I look at myself as a young girl of that age at 19. Personally, at 19, when I see something that is bigger than I am, I would turn in the other direction. I wanted to do this as a video, but just a very short, I'm going to add it here. Growing up, I almost became a victim, okay, of a sexual predator. Yes, almost. And this was me at 13, not even 19, 13. I'm just trying to buttress the point that, when you're young, okay, and when you want something, it's very easy to be impressionable. And it's also very easy not to be able to say no because you feel scared. You feel like if you don't get it, you lose. You feel like your dream you feel like you're the one who lost your dream. When in actual fact, no, that wasn't the case. And so very young, I almost fell to that because this person happened to be a friend. I won't call him a friend. He was a business associate of my father. And on this day, usually my dad would stay at home on Saturdays and he would sleep in very late because he would work all, Monday to Friday, and he would sleep in. And then on Saturdays, he would have, in French, we call it grass matinee. And then after that, we wake up and that Saturdays was the only time, and Sundays was the only time we always had, we ate together as a family, especially breakfast. Breakfast was the height of our weekends. And so my dad was still asleep. The guy was doggone tired and he was still fast asleep. And so very early, this was about probably maybe 8 or 9, and this guy walks out. And my mom sent me and said, okay, go buy some stuff. So I was on my way to buy what she sent me to buy. And boom, this guy, I see him and I'm like, oh, good morning. And I tell him, I'm like, oh, my dad is still asleep, And I would say that one of the mistakes my dad may have made or did make was the fact that, he, sometimes, business, his business associates actually were able to look for him at home, which in hindsight, that shouldn't have been. And so this was one of those people. And so in that moment when I said hi to him and I was moving along, he stops me and says, oh, I would like to take you, I was just in boarding school. I just was in boarding school. I think I was just in second year. And he says, Dad, how are you? I greet him and he says, I'd like to take you shopping for provisions. I mean, at 13, what am I thinking? Provisions is my pride and joy. Provisions to go back to school, that was my shopping. I didn't need anything. And then, I'm like, oh, that would be nice. That's so generous of you. And I tell him something in the corridors, okay, I told him, I said, okay, I'll let my parents know that this is what you want to do, like a good daughter that I am. And then he says, no, I don't want your mother and your father to know. And I'm like, and that's when I pull back. I'm like, in my brain immediately, and I'm like, why wouldn't you want my parents to know? I'm talking about someone who's probably in his 40s at the time, and I'm like, my brain goes pinging. Mind you, my mom was waiting for me. And so I go to buy the stuff she asked me to go buy. And I get back, and I wasn't myself. I wasn't okay. I became withdrawn almost immediately. Mind you, this person was already seated in the house. Okay? And I wasn't okay at this point. He didn't do it. All he just did was speak to me and tell me what he wanted. And I became, something else. So I called my mom and I told my mom, I said, Mom, this is what happened. Breakfast, we didn't have breakfast that day as usual. Breakfast that day was disrupted. And my mom she understood exactly what was happening and understood what, and my dad, who, God bless him, it was so obvious that this man was very tired and he needed to sleep, woke up quite impromptu. And the moment he woke up, I looked at my dad. My dad, you don't want to see my dad when he's stone-faced and angry. And my dad was stone-faced and very angry. And I recall he came out of the bedroom in his dress gown, and my mom ushered all of us into the car, and we drove to her sister's house because her sister didn't live far away. And we drove to her sister's house. We had brunch at her sister's house with the kids and everything. But again, I still was not okay because I felt like a part of me had just been violated. This is exactly how I felt. I could not have put it into words at that time. Right now, I can. And that was the last time. And that was the last day we ever saw that man again. So, a young teenager, a young adult is impressionable. And more so, a young adult who looks at the fact that he or she wants to be a superstar, a musician, a songwriter, what have you. And then you are in the presence of somebody who had attained mogul status at the time, which is P.Diddy. Anything he tells you you're going to do out of fear, even when you do not agree, when your spirit does not agree, you will do it. Not because you don't know that what is happening is wrong, but because you are powerless in mind, in spirit, and maturity. Okay? And so, moving further, we now get to talk about, so I was talking about why Diddy kept it. Now, from what kept taunting her, so that's where we're going to start from. Now, from what we've seen so far, okay, this is a narcissist. We've been seeing videos of, old videos of some of the things. And again, the funny thing is that none of us were able to cue in on a lot of these things. We saw them, but we couldn't cue in on them and be like, what the hell is happening here? Many of us could not cue in on that. And so this behavior, we are now learning from, according to the Rolling Stones interview, expose, we are learning is something that has actually begun while he was at Howard. So this is also new information to me. I didn't know that, he attended Howard. Though he did not finish, he dropped out in his sophomore year because he had bagged an internship, okay, as an A&R, I think. All right. Now, in the BET, during the BET Awards, where he was being honored, okay, lifetime, here he is, and he says, but he had been openly pining for her. I remember I watched an interview where the reporter asked him, how do you feel now that Cassie is gone? And he says, oh, I cried, blah, 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 blah. You would have thought, but it was false. It was a very faux emotion there. This was more like, I cried because the sex slave that has been the most submissive and the most dehumanized and maltreated, the sex slave that I own, dared to leave me. That was the response. Not necessarily that he was heartbroken. He was not heartbroken. he was only looking at himself and being like, how did I let her slip away? Again, egomaniac. And so he actually talks and calls her name, right? So now I understand the reason why he cannot call her name legally, because for years he's been taunting her and calling her name. And that is trying to get into her head. And he's trying to get into her psyche. He's trying to make her understand that I own you. I just read a book, something similar, of a girl who got married. Her father traded her because the father was a drunk, and he traded her to an abuser. The father knew, but he kind of, put a blind eye, kept a blind eye to that. And then the daughter married off his daughter rather than the daughter marrying the man she loved and she had just met. And I recall, and when the man she loved came back for her, the abuser told the man, he said, "You would never have her because I own her." You see, he said in those words, "You will never have her because I own her. I am seeped," in his words, it's a book. He said, "I am seeped into every crevice of her skin." Because apparently he used to bruise her and scar her. So every scar she had told a story about him and what he did to her and what she did to earn those scars. So for him, he owned her. And that is exactly what is happening here. He could not get close to her, but he knew that he had the audience. He knew that he had the world stage to be able to get to her and let her understand. He was trying to get into her head, and he was trying to make her understand that he owned her. He wanted her to know that she was not going to be able to escape or, go away from him. He also wanted her to know, again, he was threatening her. Like it or not, it's a threat. He was threatening her. No matter how you want to look at it, he says to her, "The lady in my life." Then she was pregnant. Listen, this is all shades of warped. Excuse me. This is all shades of warped, as in, this is warped. She was pregnant, right? I am the person, I am of the school of thought, right? That when you're done with your ex, you're done. And that you do not communicate. I'm not your friend, right? I mean, there are some people that have, great relationships with their ex, is my ex, blah, blah, blah. I mean, good for them. Me, like this, as you are seeing me, especially the kind of ex I came out from. Yeah. I am very, 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 I'm very intentional about it. And I'm saying this not because there wasn't communication with us, between us. There was. But it took therapy, right? It took therapy for me to understand that there shouldn't exist any form of communication between us. Because, you see, abuse is also a drug. The fact that we hear people who go back to their abusers, it's not necessarily because they don't want to leave. It's because their brains have wired them to be and understand that this is where they are meant to be. And that whatever it is that they are going through, for whatever reason, could be and is their fault. And of the belief system that this person is going to change, it will not continue like this. There is a part of your brain that is feeding you those false signals. And that is why one of the reasons abuse victims never leave. An abuse victim that decides and says, I am done, is a threat to the abuser. Like it or not. An abuse victim that says, I am done, I'm leaving, I'm done with you, this is it, this is the end. You become a threat to your abuser, because your abuser then realizes at one point that they have no power anymore over you. They do not want you to leave, and they can't allow you stay in peace. They want to make you understand that they own you. They want to make you understand that the air you breathe, they are the reason for it. They want to make you understand that everything, every goddamn thing that happens for you and to you in your life is because of them. And that is exactly what we're seeing here. And so she was pregnant, and he gives her a shout out. That is all shades of madness. I said this in the first, I said, this man took her to be a sex slave. She was his nymph. She was his everything, his fantasy of sexual depravity. That was what this man projected on this lovely girl, Cassie. That was what he did. Now, if we go further, he now also, he'd been tormenting her. Now we also get to find out that he was, because she talks about it in her civil suit, in her lawsuit. And then she also says her friend, Tiffany Red, who tells us that when she left, even the time she left, right, that she was in negotiations for her contract. Now, let's get into the warped contract. You signed a 19-year-old, right, for 10 albums. You now begin to understand that this cycle of abuse and the cycle of bondage he tried to put her in, he planned it. This was premeditated. He didn't sign her on 2 albums. Let's see how it works. He didn't sign her on 3 or 5, 10. And all she did was release 1. And so he had every tool. He had every thing in his arsenal to hold her down. He had it all. He had everything in his possession, right, to keep her in bondage. You owe me 10 albums. And again, these ex, all those around them most definitely knew that he was abusing her. And then she had to sit in every goddamn day in negotiations for her contract to get her out of the vicinity of the man who had been abusing her for years on end. Diddy, you will go to jail. Whatever you call yourself, you must go to jail. You must. Now, we also go to the next part of this. Again, like I said, why? Why is he, interested in, why was he doing this? And now we see the reasons why from all of this, the reasons why he cannot call her name legally anymore. At the end of the day, we are looking at someone who's sick. Remember I said also in the last video, I told you guys, and I said that this dude has got multiple personality disorder. And I don't know if a lot of you listened or took that seriously, but yes, in my opinion, yes, he does. Now we're going to go back to Diddy while he was at Howard. So, from what they are telling us, okay, while he was at Howard, he had a series of violent outbursts. If you want to read it, please, feel free, and you can find it online, right? It's just there. Just type the Rolling Stones expose on Didi, and you're going to see. Now, from what they said, a lot of people, offered to speak, but under anonymity, and the fact that many of them did not. Some people did not want to even go there at all, because we have a case of someone who said that's a part of their life they do not want to go into anymore. And so we now look at a situation where I just want to go through my notes again very quickly. So now, before I continue, because according to the Rolling Stones, Diddy's lawyer says, we are aware that the proper authorities are conducting a thorough investigation and therefore have confidence any important issues will be addressed in the proper forum where the rules distinguish facts from fiction. So that much we know. We now know that there is a federal investigation taking place. So the raid was not a chance. It was definitely, an ongoing investigation. In my opinion, this is what's going on. I again, I'm going to keep repeating it in all of my videos. The statute of limitations for assault, especially for domestic assault and domestic violence and battery, we can't put a statute of limitation. It has to be removed. I'm sorry. It has to be. You cannot tell me that I suffer abuse and then I am supposed to be able to come and talk to you about my abuse in 3 years. It's not possible. I am Cassie. It took her fucking 8 years. 8 years. And she's still talking about healing. So make it make sense. I'm sorry, we can't. Make it make sense. And this is why I say that in France, there's a very strong parallel, because in France, it's not the same. I'm not sure if there is a statute of limitations, but I know that as long as it's abuse, and the beautiful thing about France is they do not wait for the abuse to happen. They have a place in the law which stipulates that any form of coercion, whether by thoughts or words or action, okay? So you don't even have to touch the person. If there is any form, in any way that you try to convince someone to do something in any way, or you convince someone to understand or to make the person feel that this thing that you did, it is tantamount to abuse. So in France, there is no, there is no, they don't look towards the abuse to happen. They look for the patterns. And I think that is very important. And I think that is very, very interesting too. So in France, the patterns speak more. So if they establish a pattern, right, then they can actually, then they hit the nail on the head, like, yeah, this was abuse. There is what we call abuse de faiblesse in France, which means taking advantage of someone who is not mentally or physically okay, by way of getting them to sign paper or whatever, or even abusing them. So you see, there are so many things that France has put in place to actually ensure that abuse victims actually get justice, and that we are not going to have to go and look at just abuse, but then how did we get here? And that is when I will put into question the contract, okay, Diddy drew up for Cassie. Though in the filing it says that they are not to speak about the settlement or anything, or even the contract. And I feel very strongly that every crime, right, every crime that had ever happened to Cassie, or happened to Cassie, or the beginning of any crime that happened to Cassie, started from that contract. if we're going to go there, it's from the beginning. The beginning starts from the contract, right? And so when we look at this, we are now aware that the federal authorities are conducting a proper investigation. We have Joy Dickerson. Joy Dickerson also talks about the fact that she was sexually assaulted. Now, funny thing is, it's not funny. I believe Joy Dickerson. Why? In her story, she goes on to make us understand that when it happened, right? She says her decision to come forward isn't about money. It's making sure that people see the man for who he is, right? And whom he has left victims in their wake. So I want to just quickly go to what Joy Dickerson right. So I want to quickly go to what she said, or what I said I believed her. So why I said I believed her is because this is coming from the history of Combs. So we have people who says that they have described previously unreported incidents involving unwanted touching and fits of rage. And one woman says she kept as far away as possible after Combs caressed her back without warning and asked if she would be willing to meet one of his friends. And this was when he was at Howard University. All right. And okay, so we go to Dickerson. So yes, so it's Dickerson. So Dickerson says that Puff Daddy, Huff Puffy, whatever he calls himself, says that Sean Combs invited her out to dinner. And she said she reluctantly agreed to a dinner date with Combs in January of 1991. Please, someone should tell me, why would you have a statute of limitations for 3 years? No. And she said, well, she was a college student and she was paying for her school by working the job at a restaurant. And so she said she was drugged, and then he had sex with her, he raped her. And then he said that, she also said that the 30-year-old story is made up. That's what his lawyers said. And Mike Nice Lewis, who worked with Dickerson, now this is why I believe her, says Mike Nice Lewis, who worked with Dickerson Neal at the short-lived PMD Records, tells Rolling Stones that she confided in him. Please, I want to make you understand something. When someone has been through something, if they don't know or see anyone they can confide in and they can trust, they won't confide in you. But if there is someone that they can confide in, they will confide in you immediately from the get-go. She did that immediately, right? And she says, who worked with her? This is someone that worked with her, right? And she confided in him. And then he also goes further to tell us that she changed. She abruptly changed. That she had a very bad sexual experience. Now, please know this. For a lot of victims of abuse or rape or assault, the first feeling and the first emotion is usually the emotion of shame, where we know we have nothing to be ashamed of, but it is there. And the shame comes from, how did I let myself be so stupid? How did I let myself be easily manipulated this way? That's where the shame comes from. The shame comes from the fact that you feel that you will be blamed for making stupid decisions. It has happened to me. I have actually been shamed for that. Not even my own shame. I was shamed by this same dude who was abusing me at the time. Yes, I was. This is no joke. I was. And so when you understand exactly how this thing works, damn the statute of limitations. Yeah, you have to, you damn it, because come on, someone who's trying to fight for their life, who's trying to go from and run away, someone, we saw it in the video. Has it ever occurred to a lot of you that a victim is actually trying to leave, and that in so many ways the abuser is not letting them leave? Has it ever occurred to you? We hear of stories of women who actually get out, and then the same abuser comes to where they are, maybe their parents' home or whatever, and starts pleading, please come back home. It happened to Osinachi Nwachukwu, a Nigerian singer. It happened to her so many times that she refused to go home anymore, even though her family told her to stay. It happened to her so many times until her husband unalived her. Yes. Now that same husband is at large. No one knows where he is. And that's the thing. The society and the laws and the legal system, with this stupid, godforsaken red tapes, allows abusers. They allow abusers to go scot-free. Many men all over the world abuse women or even children. But you hang these annoying, godforsaken red tapes to allow them go scot-free, and they walk free like nothing can touch them, that they are invincible. And again, in Cat Williams' words, we give these people this God complex. We allow them to be that because, and this is the reason why I don't do fandom. I don't do that. It took me a while to get to this place. Do you understand? I mean, if you do that's your, all well and good. I don't. Because I think I've taken my time to put myself in a situation where I think deeply and I tell myself, well, all well and good for you. You're a star or a celebrity or whatever, but you're a human being. That's the first thing I always tell you. More than anything, are a human being with blood running through your veins like me. So when we give symbols, status symbols to people, we need to be careful, because when you give them a God complex, they begin to actually hone in on that God complex. They begin to use it, as we have seen with this madman. We begin to see it happen. We're going to go a little bit, to the past now. If we can all think back and remember in the times when he used to do interviews, or we have all seen the interview with at the Met Gala with God bless his soul, our dear Big Daddy, what's his name? Oh, I can't remember his name. Oh my God, I can't remember his name. Who passed away just shortly after COVID. We see right there before us an act of control. Here we are. P.Diddy is being interviewed. I think it's the first one. he's been interviewed by Liza Koshy, I think. And then the first thing he does is to wrap his hand around her. That was a control technique. He was controlling her at that time. He was threatening her at that time. And for Cassie, what she then does is to put her hand over him to dispel her anxiety and fear. It happened in our presence. We saw it. The same thing, predators. I've said this before in one of my videos. Make it make sense that a man of 35, I've said it before, if you are 35 and over, and you cannot carry yourself and talk to a girl who is 26, 27, you have no business dating. Let me repeat it. All of you, wherever you are, and I'm not speaking to only Yeye British in America. I'm talking to all the Yeye British everywhere. If you know that you are 35 and over, and that you cannot on your own look at a grown woman, 26, 27 and above, in fact, in my opinion, 27 and above, you cannot go and talk to her and date her, or go and date the one closest to you in age. Don't date, don't marry. Stay single. Because when you do that, and I'm not talking to only men, I'm talking to women too. Because we have a case of Drea Michelle as well. When you do that, that is plain predation. That's plain predation. You are a predator, like it or not. You put people's children in perilous situations because you seek to manipulate. Rubbish. So, like I was saying, today's streaming is going to be long, and I didn't want it to be. So, like I was saying, we now discover that Diddy has actually a history of, he's got a history of violence, which started all the way back from Howard University. Now, we also talk about the fact that there have been series of, accidents that have taken lives where he's concerned. And they seem to, somehow he has been able to wiggle his way out of it, which brings us back to the story of Shine. Like I said, I have a video on that. You guys, I'm looking for the video, but I'm going to, put it up probably this week or next week or by weekend. It should be up, right? So yeah, basically that's it in a nutshell. That is Diddy in all his glory. Someone who is haunted, who's dark, it's not just a history of domestic violence and abuse, but who is actually sick in the head and who's got a history of violence, who's cold. I wasn't very old to know that, and you can sense it. It's there. I said it in the first or third or second, or don't know. I said in one of my videos. He's cold. He's unfeeling. He does not care. I recall when I was watching, I think it was the reality show where he was doing, I think it was, they were looking for talents or something. And I saw, in all honesty, a madman. A madman. That's what I saw. A crazy person. Nothing he was doing made sense. But he was doing it. because, again, God complex, mogul, blah, blah, blah. And I want to say once again, to all those who are looking to excuse this behavior, shame on all of you. Shame on all of you. And I will say it again. Where are all his friends? Where are the people that partied with him? Where are the people that used to go to his parties, that had VIP treatment? Where are they? You're all quiet. The silence is loud. Very, very loud. We will continue to call you people low. Because your silence, like I said, there are two things. Either you are a part of it, or you are trying to extricate yourself from it. The silence is loud. You are all quiet because when R. Kelly's one happened, all of you, everybody had something to say. Harvey Weinstein, everybody had something to say. Jeffrey Epstein, everybody had something to say. Despite the fact that it was proven innocent, many of you had a lot of things to say. This one, none of you have anything to say. Well, we come to the end of this live at this point. Now we understand better the reasons why he was taunting Cassie. Now we also understand better why he cannot call her name legally, because he was doing all those things to get to her, to get her, to threaten, to manipulate, to make her understand that I own you. And you see, if for anything, that particular thing should be enough grounds to get that madman arrested and locked up and the key thrown away. But hey, it's the US, it's not France. In France, it holds up. In the US, I don't know. I don't live that. Right? And on this note, guys, this is where we are going to end this. Because I realize that every day there is something to be angry about where this man is concerned. Every day there is something to be upset about. Every day there is something you realize how damaged this individual is and how damaging he is and was to people around him, and not just to women, men alike. So on this note, guys, I'm going to bid you all bye and see you in another video. Do not fail to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And of course, do not fail to listen on my podcasts. Yeah? I'll see you guys pretty soon. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Bye.